Is Tesamorelin safe? Well, in this video, I'll show you some of the great benefits of this beautiful 44 amino acid chain peptide called Tesamorelin. It does have FDA approval for very specific conditions like lipodystrophy in HIV patients. But most people have never heard of this peptide, even though it is one of the strongest growth hormone releasing peptides that we know of. And a lot of people think, oh, it's just the same as any other growth hormone releasing peptide. But this one, based on the way they structure these 44 amino acids, it does seem to be more stable and mimics your body's own growth hormone releasing hormone in ways that are very unique, which makes Tesamorelin kind of a top-tier peptide when it comes to performance enhancement. So let's jump in and I'll share with you some of the risks that you can have when using Tesamorelin and some of the upsides with it. And so the biggest risk that you're going to have is where are you sourcing it from? Many people are using peptides from research use only facilities, and those are designed to be used in research, like with rodents. They're not up to the same standards in many cases as licensed compounding pharmacies. And so this is where you really want to work with a licensed physician, somebody who can prescribe these peptides and work directly with the compounding pharmacist so that your protocol is unique to your biology. This is something I believe your health is the biggest investment you can make. I've always worked with my medical team or even medical teams outside of my own clinics so that I can get the best resources for my own body versus taking what I perceive to be a riskier route on the research use only peptides. So for those of you who want to go deeper, you want to work with a talented medical team, go to agelessfuture.com, get your blood labs ran, and then figure out if Tesamorelin or other peptides are going to be beneficial to you. So let's jump in. Is it safe? Now, this is interesting because here's one of the long-term safety studies. This was way back in 2008, way back, right? It feels like forever ago. Well, we probably all remember something in 2008, but this is called the long-term safety effects of Tesamorelin, a growth hormone releasing factor analog in HIV-infected patients with excess abdominal fat. That was the big thing. They were trying to solve that problem with this visceral fat buildup in the gut. Now, I have seen a lot of men in the United States, and anytime I travel to Europe and then I come back to the United States, I know instantly I'm back in the United States because we all have the big bellies. So this could be a linchpin for helping melt that fat away. But this study was a multi-center international study. Participants who had completed a 26 randomized Tesamorelin trial entered into a 20-week extension to evaluate the safety of 52 weeks of continuous Tesamorelin use. Now, this is 2 milligrams daily. This is a very high dose. I know in my clinic, our providers are not prescribing this high of a dose. They have you go on 5 days on, 2 days off. But what they want to look at in this study is they want to look at safety, visceral fat, and metabolic markers. There are over 400 patients in the study. It was peer-reviewed, placebo-controlled versus a control group. And here's what they found. They said that Tesamorelin was generally well tolerated over 52 weeks, maintained about an 18% reduction in visceral adipose tissue. They had improved triglycerides without clinically significant worsening of glucose parameters, supporting its safe long-term use as a growth hormone secretagogue in this population. So while we don't have a lot of studies on healthy cohorts, there was a study done on healthy participants that was released in 24, and their safety profile was also very good in that particular study. But once again, just because the study says something doesn't mean this is safe or beneficial for you. This is where you need to work with your provider and go deeper to figure out, is this the right fit for you? How does your body do? Because everybody responds just a little differently. So let's talk about some of the issues that showed up in the studies. The top issue, you'll see this across the boards. For those of you new to peptides, I'll give you the downside is most of these are injectables. Now, I know some people say oral peptides don't work. There actually are some really good peptides that work orally and small molecules that do fall into the peptide category, like 5-amino, 1-MQ, tesofensin, Ipamorelin, MK677. These are great. But from the injection site, that was the number one reaction with Tesamorelin. So participants had redness, they had itching, they had pain, they had swelling where the shot was given. That is very hard to circumvent. One thing I found for myself, just putting a little ice pack on some of the peptides that may cause a little more stinging, calms down that area. Okay, the second thing is some of the participants noticed musculoskeletal complaints. They had a little more joint pain or they had kind of muscle aches than was seen in placebo trials. So the placebo group didn't notice that. They noticed that there was a small amount of people who had some musculoskeletal complaints. They had more edema and fluid retention. So when you activate growth hormone, you also get a sodium channel. So when you're working on glycolysis, sometimes you get excess sodium. So this is where you really want to work on hydration so that sodium can actually help fuel and hydrate your muscles, because when you're in a muscle building phase, hydration becomes really critical. But if you do notice puffiness, add in some potassium. I love the Relight electrolyte blend because it's from the Redmond Farms here in Utah, central Utah salt mine. Some very important electrolytes, but you can also eat beet greens. They have loads of potassium in them. You can eat an avocado. It's got great potassium. Don't focus solely on bananas for potassium. You'll find some, but you're going to have far more in those foods. Okay, so that's the edema. The fourth thing, increased blood sugar and metabolic effects. So some patients noticed that their blood sugar crept up when they started taking this. There's changes in glucose tolerance. And so this is where you want to make sure that you're testing your blood sugar regularly. Now, in many cases, you see where their hemoglobin A1C actually improved being on this. So it depends on your metabolic makeup. But anytime you activate IGF-1, you're going to get better metabolic transmission, better glucose transportation, and if you can build muscle mass, that's your biggest glucose disposal system so that your body's blood sugar can actually stay stable. Instead of having excess glucose in your blood, we want it in your muscle. That's where you want to utilize it very quickly. So, but that is something, especially if you're not exercising, when you're on Tesamorelin, just don't even think about peptides. Just start exercising, start eating the right foods, and then use Tesamorelin or peptides for the leverage to get you to the next level and to protect you so that you can have a really long and abundant future. Okay, the fifth one is hypersensitivity reactions. So there were participants who noticed rashes, urticaria, they had allergic signs. These are the top 5. And then some of the other minor things, nausea, mild symptoms like an upset stomach. Some people got headaches, a little bit of insomnia, mood changes. Some got some, and this is very rare, but tingling or numbness. Some people saw antibodies against Tesamorelin. So if you do get antibodies that build up, then you will get some of these rashes and you'll notice that your body doesn't respond very well to it. But all of these things, once again, if you're working with talented medical team and you're dosing it properly, making sure you're cycling it, these studies, they're on it for 52 weeks, every day, 2 milligrams. I don't recommend following what the studies showed. Typically, if you're looking for optimization, the smallest input leads to the biggest result. And you don't want to go just titrate up to the highest dose generally, unless that's what your doctor wants you to do. But we found that much smaller dosing, I found personally as well, leads to very big outcomes, enormous benefits when it comes to sleep, cognitive function, physical fitness, strength. It's an amazing peptide. So for those of you who are nerds on peptides, you want to go even deeper, you're going to want to watch my video on does CJC 1295 work for women? And so we'll provide a link in the show notes below. I'm Regan Archibald. Appreciate being part of this community. See you on the next video.